the massive doors of the Confederation Council Chamber opened with a deep rumble that echoed through the crystalline halls of Nexus Prime. Captain Jake Morrison stepped forward, his black military uniform a stark contrast against the flowing robes and exotic forms of the 12 alien representatives who sat in judgment before him. The chamber itself was a marvel of galactic engineering, with walls that seemed to bend light and gravity in impossible ways, but Jake had no time to admire. The architecture today. Admiral Lisa Carter walked beside him, her face carved from stone, as she surveyed the assembled council members. Behind them followed Dr. Peter Williams, clutching a datapad containing humanity's defense against the charges they all knew were coming. Commander Amy Hughes brought up the rear, her eyes constantly scanning the chamber for threats that might not be immediately obvious. The Zephyrian representative floated in the center of the semicircle, its translucent body shimmering with colors that had no names in human language. To its left sat the massive bulk of a Vorthic elder, whose ancient eyes had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations across 3 galactic rotations. The other council members represented species that had ruled the stars when humanity was still learning to make fire. The emergency session of the Galactic Confederation Council will now commence, the Zephyrian announced, its voice echoing directly inside the minds of everyone present. We are here to address the matter of the human species and their continued violations of Confederation law and protocol. Jake felt his jaw tighten, but kept his expression neutral. 200 years of human membership in the Confederation had led to this moment, and he had known it was coming. The signs had been there for months. Trade disputes that seemed designed to hurt human colonies. Scientific exchanges that suddenly excluded human researchers. Military joint exercises where human forces were mysteriously uninvited at the last moment. The Vorthic elder leaned forward, its massive form casting shadows across the chamber floor. The charges against humanity are numerous and severe. It spoke in a voice like grinding stone. Unauthorized terraforming of the Kepler 442 system. Development of artificial intelligence beyond approved parameters. Creation of hybrid organic synthetic. Soldiers in violation of the Consciousness Preservation Treaty. Dr. Williams stepped forward, his datapad glowing with prepared arguments. Honored council members, if I may address these accusations. The terraforming of Kepler 442 was necessary for human survival. The system was designated as available for colonization under Article 12 of the Expansion Protocols. Article 12 applies only to uncontested systems, interrupted the insectoid, representative from the hive mind of Kepler. Our preliminary surveys had already established claim markers throughout that system. Your species ignored our rightful claim and proceeded with terraforming operations that destroyed 3 of our breeding colonies. Jake knew this was a lie. The Kepler hive mind had abandoned those colonies decades ago, leaving only automated beacons that broadcast false occupation signals. But proving this would require revealing how deep human intelligence networks had penetrated Confederation space, and that was knowledge they could not afford to share. Admiral Carter spoke for the first time, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had commanded fleets in the Outer Rim Wars. The artificial intelligence research conducted by human scientists falls well within the parameters established by the technology accords. We have developed advanced computational systems, not true artificial consciousness. Lies, hissed the serpentine representative from the Coiling Stars Collective. Our intelligence networks report that humans have created thinking machines that display creativity, emotion, and independent decision-making. These are clear violations of the Accords, established after the Silicon Wars nearly destroyed the galaxy. Jake wanted to laugh at the irony. The same intelligence networks that had failed to detect human infiltration of their own governments were now supposedly capable of accurately assessing human technology. But he kept his mouth shut and let the proceedings continue. The Zephyrian representative pulsed with deeper colors, a sign Jake had learned meant increased agitation. Most concerning of all are reports of human military personnel who display capabilities beyond normal biological parameters. Soldiers who survive in vacuum without protection. Warriors who demonstrate strength and speed impossible for unmodified. Organic beings. This suggests genetic manipulation and cybernetic enhancement on a scale that threatens the biological integrity of all species. Commander Hughes spoke up, her voice calm and measured. The soldiers you describe are volunteers who have undergone legal enhancement procedures available to any Confederation citizen. The Medical Enhancement Treaty specifically allows for such modifications when used for defensive purposes. Defensive, scoffed the crystalline representative from the Silicon Reach. Your enhanced soldiers have been observed in combat operations, far from human territory. They have intervened in conflicts that posed no direct threat to human worlds. This suggests an aggressive expansion agenda that violates the non-interference principle. Jake finally stepped forward, knowing that his words would determine humanity's fate within the Confederation. Honored Council members, humanity has never sought to dominate or control other species. Our actions have always been guided by the principles of self-defense and mutual cooperation. When we have intervened in conflicts, it has been to protect innocent lives and preserve the stability. That benefits all Confederation members. The chamber fell silent for a long moment. Jake could feel the weight of alien gazes upon him, species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia, now sitting in judgment of the newcomers, who had dared to challenge their established order. The Zephyrian representative began to glow with an ominous light. The Council has reviewed all evidence and testimony. We have consulted the ancient laws and precedents that govern Confederation membership. The verdict is unanimous. Jake felt his heart sink, but he kept his expression steady. Beside him, Admiral. Carter's hand moved almost imperceptibly closer to her sidearm, a gesture that would be meaningless in this chamber, but spoke to her warrior's instincts. The human species is hereby expelled from the Galactic Confederation, the Zephyrian announced. All human colonies outside the Sol system must be evacuated within one standard galactic year. All trade agreements are terminated immediately. A blockade will be established around human space to prevent unauthorized expansion or contact with Confederation worlds. The words hit the human delegation like physical blows, but Jake had expected this outcome. They all had. Admiral Carter had been preparing for this possibility since the day humanity first joined the Confederation. Furthermore, the Vorthic Elder continued, any human vessels detected outside designated boundaries will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. This judgment is final and may not be appealed. As the Council members began to file out of the chamber, Admiral Carter leaned close to Jake's ear. Her words were so quiet that even the advanced recording systems in the chamber would not detect them. They think they're punishing us, she whispered. They have no idea what they've just unleashed. Jake nodded slightly, his mind already turning to the plans that had been years in the making. The Confederation believed they had just solved the human problem by forcing humanity back into isolation. They could not have been more wrong. The evacuation fleet stretched across 7 light-years of space as the largest migration in human history began its journey home. Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the command ship, watching as colony transport vessels emerged from hyperspace in endless streams. Each ship carried families who had called distant worlds home for generations, now forced to abandon everything they had built because the galaxy deemed humanity too dangerous to exist beyond their birthplace. Admiral. Lisa Carter joined him at the viewing board, her expression unreadable as another wave of transports dropped out of hyperspace. The Confederation monitoring stations are recording every ship movement, she said quietly. They want to make sure we're really leaving. Jake nodded, knowing that alien observers throughout human space were documenting what they believed was humanity's defeat. The evacuation appeared chaotic and desperate to outside eyes. Ships overloaded with refugees, hasty abandonment of valuable infrastructure, and the apparent collapse of human civilization under the weight of galactic pressure. It was exactly the image Admiral Carter wanted to project. "How many have we brought back so far?" Jake asked. 412 million as of this morning, Carter replied. "But that's just the official count. The real number is much different." Jake understood what she meant. The public evacuation was only part of the story. Thousands of humans had chosen to remain behind, their identities carefully erased from official records. Dr. Rebecca Stone's genetic adaptation program had been working in secret for decades, allowing humans to surgically alter their appearance to match various alien species. These volunteers would become ghosts in the galactic community, invisible assets that could operate without detection. Commander Amy Hughes approached them from across the observation deck, her face showing the strain of coordinating the most complex intelligence operation in human history. "The last batch of deep cover agents reported in this morning," she said. "We now have assets placed in every major Confederation government and corporation. The Zephyrians even have a human advisor working directly for their High Council, though. They believe she's a modified Altarian refugee." The irony was perfect. The same genetic enhancement technology that the Confederation had condemned as dangerous was now allowing humans to infiltrate their societies at the highest levels. Every alien government that had voted for human expulsion now had human agents, influencing their daily operations. Dr. Peter Williams materialized beside them as if stepping out of thin air, his latest prototype personal teleportation device still crackling with residual energy. The Confederation had banned such technology as too dangerous for civilian use, but human scientists had perfected it years ago. "The industrial evacuation is proceeding ahead of schedule," he reported. "We're not just bringing back people. We're bringing back everything we learned." Jake knew that everything included detailed scans of every alien world humans had inhabited, complete genetic databases of alien species, and most importantly, comprehensive analysis of every piece of Confederation technology humans had encountered. The evacuation ships weren't just carrying refugees. They were carrying the accumulated knowledge of 2 centuries of human expansion across the galaxy. The Sol system itself was transforming at an incredible pace. Mars had become a massive shipyard where new vessels rolled off production lines. Every hour, the asteroid belt was being converted into automated mining operations that extracted resources at rates that would have seemed impossible just years before. Jupiter's moons housed research facilities where human scientists worked, without the restrictions that Confederation membership had imposed. Admiral Carter led them to a secure briefing room deep within the command ship. The walls came alive with holographic displays showing the true scope of Project Renaissance, the plan she had been developing since humanity first joined the Confederation. "The evacuation is just the beginning," she explained as star charts filled the air around them. "Every ship we're bringing home is equipped with quantum communication arrays that will keep us connected to our deep cover agents. Every refugee carries industrial fabrication patterns stored in their genetic memory. Every family group includes at least one individual with advanced combat modifications." Jake studied the displays with growing amazement. The Confederation believed they were watching humanity retreat in defeat, but they were actually witnessing the most sophisticated strategic repositioning in galactic history. The Sol system was becoming a fortress that could survive indefinitely under siege while secretly projecting power across the entire galaxy. Dr. Williams activated another display that showed technological developments that had been hidden from Confederation oversight. "Without their restrictions, we've achieved breakthroughs they consider impossible," he said. quantum computing networks that process information faster than light, biotechnology that can adapt human consciousness to any environment, consciousness transfer systems that make traditional concepts of death obsolete. Commander Hughes added. Her own intelligence reports to the briefing. Our deep cover agents are already beginning subtle sabotage operations. Nothing dramatic enough to reveal their presence, but enough to start degrading Confederation capabilities. Communication networks are experiencing mysterious failures. Military logistics systems are developing increasingly frequent glitches. Scientific research projects are encountering unexpected delays and setbacks. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. While the Confederation celebrated their victory over the dangerous humans, humanity was quietly becoming more powerful than ever before. The forced isolation was allowing them to develop technologies and capabilities that would have been impossible under Confederation oversight. Jake looked at the evacuation fleet data again, but now he saw it with new understanding. The ships weren't just carrying defeated refugees. They were carrying the seeds of humanity's return to galactic prominence. Every transport vessel was equipped with advanced manufacturing systems. Every family group included individuals with specialized skills and genetic enhancements. Every child had been educated in advanced sciences that the Confederation had banned from human schools. Admiral Carter closed the briefing displays and looked directly at Jake. The Confederation believes they've solved the human problem by forcing U.S. into isolation. They think we'll spend the next few centuries struggling to survive in our single solar system while they continue to expand and prosper. They're wrong on every count. Jake nodded, finally understanding the true scope of what they were accomplishing. The evacuation wasn't a retreat. It was the largest strategic deception in galactic history. Humanity was appearing to comply with Confederation demands while actually positioning themselves for a return that would catch every alien. Government completely unprepared. The last transport ships were arriving now, completing the withdrawal that would be recorded in galactic history as humanity's great defeat. But Jake knew better. He was watching the opening moves of a campaign that would end with humanity ruling the galaxy, not through conquest, but through superiority so complete that resistance would become impossible. The Confederation had given humanity exactly what they needed to become unstoppable: time, motivation, and the freedom to develop without limitations. The withdrawal was complete, but the real war was just beginning. General Nathan Cole stepped out of his ship onto the surface of Vega Prime without any protective equipment, breathing the poisonous atmosphere as easily as if it were Earth's sweet air. The Confederation patrol that had been monitoring the systems Outer Edge had simply vanished 3 days ago, leaving no trace of their presence except for a few scattered metal fragments that could have been space debris. The local Vega government had no idea that human forces now controlled their orbital defense. Grid. Dr. Rebecca Stone watched from the shadows as Cole's genetically adapted soldiers moved through the alien city like ghosts. To the native population, they appeared to be ordinary vegan citizens going about their daily business. The reality was far different. These humans had been modified so extensively that they could survive in any environment the galaxy could produce. Some could exist in the vacuum of space for weeks without protection. Others could adapt their biology in real time to match whatever atmosphere or gravity they encountered. Captain Ryan Bell's stealth fleet hung motionless in the space between stars, their ships invisible to every known form of detection. The vessels themselves seemed to violate the basic laws of physics, phasing in and out of normal space-time in ways that confused even the most advanced Confederation sensors. When they moved, they traveled faster than anything in the known galaxy. When they attacked, they struck without warning and vanished before their enemies could respond. The war had been going on for 15 years, but the Confederation didn't even know they were fighting. Their military assets simply disappeared. Patrol fleets would fail to report in, and when search parties arrived, they would find empty space where powerful warships had been operating just hours before. Research stations would go dark overnight, their crews vanishing without sending distress signals. Even the most heavily defended installations would suddenly cease all communication, leaving investigators to discover abandoned facilities with no signs of battle or struggle. Commander Amy Hughes monitored these operations from her command center, deep within the asteroid belt. Her ghost network had grown beyond anything the founders of the Confederation could have imagined. Human agents now held positions of influence in every major government, corporation, and military organization in known space. They had become so deeply embedded in alien societies that removing them would require dismantling entire civilizations. The most successful operation had been the simultaneous infiltration of 12 Confederation core worlds. In a single coordinated strike, human agents had disabled the defensive systems of planets that housed billions of alien citizens. No shots had been fired, no lives had been lost, but the message had been unmistakable. Humanity could reach anyone, anywhere, at any time. The supposed isolation of the Sol system was nothing more than an illusion that humanity maintained for their own strategic purposes. Jake Morrison studied the latest intelligence reports from his office on Earth. The Confederation Council was meeting in emergency session again, trying to understand how their most secure facilities were being compromised. Their debates were monitored in real time by human intelligence networks, giving humanity advanced knowledge of every strategy and countermeasure their former allies attempted to develop. Admiral Lisa Carter's fleet had grown to dwarf the entire Confederation Navy. Her shipyards produced vessels at a rate that should have been impossible for a single star system. The secret was automation technology that had advanced far beyond anything the galaxy had seen before. Human factories operated with perfect efficiency, guided by artificial intelligences that the Confederation had banned as too dangerous, but which humanity had perfected decades ago. Dr. Peter Williams had achieved breakthroughs that made human technology appear magical to outside observers. Matter could be transmitted instantly across galactic distances. Artificial pocket universes provided unlimited resources. Time manipulation allowed human forces to essentially pause local reality while they completed their objectives. The scientific restrictions that Confederation membership had imposed were revealed as deliberate attempts to prevent humanity from reaching their true potential. General Cole completed his mission on Vega Prime and reported back to Earth. Planet's government now unknowingly followed policies written by human strategists. Their military procurement would favor weapons and equipment secretly manufactured in human facilities. Their trade agreements would gradually shift economic power toward human-controlled corporations. Within a generation, Vega Prime would be economically dependent on humanity while believing they were dealing with fellow alien businesses. The pattern was repeating across the galaxy. Dr. Stone's adaptation program had created humans who could pass for members of any known species. They had infiltrated alien societies at every level, from government ministers to military commanders to corporate executives. Some had even taken positions as religious leaders, slowly reshaping alien belief systems to be more compatible with human values and goals. Captain Bell's stealth operations had eliminated every Confederation asset that posed a potential threat to human interests. The aliens believed their losses were due to equipment failures, navigation errors, or attacks by unknown pirates. They had no idea that humanity was systematically dismantling their military capabilities while leaving their civilian populations completely unharmed. Commander Hughes reviewed reports from across the galaxy with satisfaction. The Ghost Network had become more than an intelligence operation. It was actively shaping galactic civilization according to human design. Wars that would have devastated entire sectors were being prevented through subtle diplomatic manipulation. Scientific research was being guided toward discoveries that would benefit all species. Economic systems were being restructured to eliminate the inequality and exploitation that had characterized Confederation society. The most remarkable aspect of the operation was how thoroughly humanity had infiltrated their former oppressors while remaining completely invisible. The Zephyrians had human advisors helping them make policy decisions. The Vorthek Empire had human engineers designing their new starships. The hive mind of Kepler had human scientists working in their most secure research facilities. Every alien government that had voted for human expulsion was now being guided by human intelligence without their knowledge. Jake Morrison received a priority communication from Admiral Carter. The final phase of Project Renaissance was ready to begin. Humanity had spent 15 years transforming from galactic outcasts into the invisible masters of galactic civilization. They had demonstrated their ability to reach any target, influence any government, and shape any outcome they desired. The time had come to reveal their presence and offer the galaxy a choice between cooperation and irrelevance. The Confederation believed they had successfully contained the human threat through banishment and isolation. The reality was that humanity had used their forced exile to become the dominant power in the galaxy. They had achieved this not through conquest or destruction, but through superior technology, strategic brilliance, and the patient application of overwhelming capability. The silent revolution was complete, and the galaxy would never be the same. President Corinne Lee stood in the Oval Office overlooking the transformed landscape of Earth, her decision weighing heavily on her mind. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the massive orbital platforms that now ringed the planet like artificial moons. The time for shadows and secrecy had ended. Humanity would reveal itself to the galaxy not as the banished outcasts the Confederation remembered, but as the advanced civilization they had become during their years of supposed isolation. Fleet Admiral Chris Parker received the authorization codes that would begin Operation Daybreak. His armada waited in hyperspace around every major Confederation world, ships that incorporated technology so advanced they seemed to bend reality itself. The vessels were beautiful and terrifying, their hulls flowing like liquid metal, while their energy signatures defied every known law of physics. They were crewed by humans who had transcended the limitations that bound other species to single environments and single forms of existence. The operation began at exactly noon, Galactic Standard Time. Parker's fleet materialized simultaneously, in orbit around 47 Confederation capital worlds. The sight was beyond anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Ships that existed partially outside normal spacetime hung motionless above alien cities, their presence both impossible and undeniable. Communication channels across the galaxy exploded with panic and confusion as every major government tried to understand what they were seeing. Jake Morrison appeared as a hologram in every public space throughout Confederation territory. His image was broadcast simultaneously on billions of screens, transmitted directly into the neural networks of hive mind species, and projected into the shared consciousness fields of energy-based civilizations. Every sentient being in the galaxy would hear his message at the same moment. "Citizens of the galaxy," Morrison began, his voice carrying the quiet confidence of absolute power. 25 years ago, the Confederation Council banished humanity from galactic civilization. You were told that we were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too violent to exist alongside your peaceful societies. Today, we return to show you the truth. The hologram shifted to display images of human agents working throughout Confederation space. Zephyrian Council members gasped as they recognized their own trusted advisors, revealing themselves to be genetically modified humans. Vorthek military commanders watched in shock as their strategic planning officers removed disguises that had fooled the most advanced sensors for decades. Across the galaxy, the scope of human infiltration became undeniably clear. For 15 years, human agents have guided your governments, improved your technologies, and prevented conflicts that would have devastated entire sectors, Morrison continued. The peace and prosperity you have enjoyed during our supposed exile was made possible by human intervention. We have been your silent guardians, protecting you from threats you never knew existed. Dr. Peter Williams stepped forward to demonstrate the technological advances humanity had achieved during their isolation. With a gesture, he opened a portal that connected the broadcast studio on Earth with a research facility orbiting Alpha Centauri. Matter streamed through the portal in both directions, proving that humanity had mastered instantaneous transportation across interstellar distances. The demonstration continued as Williams manipulated local time flow, causing clocks throughout the galaxy to slow and accelerate in perfect synchronization with his movements. The restrictions placed on human research during our Confederation membership were never about safety, Williams explained as he casually created a small artificial universe in the palm of his hand. They were about preventing us from surpassing the technological capabilities of species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. Without those restrictions, we have achieved what your civilizations consider impossible. Admiral Lisa Carter's fleet emerged from hyperspace around the Confederation capital world of Nexus Prime. Her ships dwarfed the defensive installations that had been built to protect the seat of galactic government. But the human vessels made no aggressive moves. Instead, they transmitted detailed specifications of their defensive capabilities, proving that Confederation weapons would be completely ineffective against human technology. We could have returned as conquerors, Carter announced over open communication channels. Our military capabilities are sufficient to overwhelm every defense you possess. But conquest was never our goal. We seek partnership, not domination. We offer you the opportunity to join us in building a truly advanced galactic civilization. Commander Amy Hughes revealed the full extent of the Ghost Network, displaying real-time intelligence data from every corner of Confederation space. Alien governments watched in amazement as humans demonstrated complete knowledge of their most classified military secrets, their private diplomatic communications, and their carefully guarded scientific research. The revelation was not threatening, but reassuring. Humanity had possessed this information for years without using it for harmful purposes. Your secrets were safe with us because we never intended to use them against you, Hughes explained. Human intelligence networks exist to protect galactic stability, not to exploit other species. We have prevented 17 separate wars, stopped 43 terrorist attacks, and quietly resolved hundreds of diplomatic crises that could have led to system-wide conflicts. The most stunning revelation came when Dr. Williams announced that humanity had made contact with the Precursors, the legendary civilization that had left the galaxy millions of years ago. Using consciousness transfer technology, humans had communicated with beings who had transcended physical existence long before current galactic civilizations had even evolved. The Precursors had shared knowledge that allowed humanity to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. The Precursors left detailed records of their civilization's development, Williams revealed as images of ancient star maps filled the broadcast. They faced the same challenges that confront us today: competition between species, resource scarcity, the temptation to use advanced technology for domination rather than cooperation. They transcended these limitations by learning to work together across species boundaries. They offered to teach the same lessons to our current galactic community. President Lee concluded the broadcast with humanity's offer to the galaxy. The Confederation can choose to accept human leadership in building a new golden age of galactic civilization. We offer to share our technological advances freely. We promise to protect every species and help them reach their full potential. We guarantee that no civilization will be left behind as we advance together toward a future of unlimited possibility. The broadcast ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. The species that had banished humanity 25 years ago now faced an undeniable truth. The outcasts they had feared had become their secret protectors. The dangerous humans they had tried to contain had quietly elevated galactic civilization to unprecedented heights. The choice was simple: accept humanity's guidance toward transcendence, or face irreversence as the galaxy moved forward without them. Fleet Admiral Parker waited for responses from the Confederation governments, knowing that humanity's patient demonstration of overwhelming superiority had made resistance impossible. The revelation was complete, and the galaxy would never be the same. Director Helen Brooks stood before the newly constructed Galactic Development Center on Luna, watching as representatives from over 3,000 species gathered for the first Universal Cooperation Summit. The transition had been surprisingly peaceful, with most Confederation governments choosing partnership over resistance when faced with undeniable proof of human superiority. The few species that had attempted military action discovered that their weapons simply refused to function when directed at human targets. A safeguard built into every piece of technology humanity had quietly improved over the past decades. Ambassador John Davis worked alongside former Confederation leaders to establish the new governmental structure that would guide galactic civilization into its next phase of development. The old hierarchical system had been replaced with a collaborative network where decisions were made through quantum-linked consciousness sharing. Every sentient being in the galaxy could participate directly in governance while maintaining their individual autonomy and cultural identity. Dr. Susan Wright made the final adjustments to the consciousness expansion devices that would allow alien beings to experience human-level intelligence and creativity. The process was completely voluntary, but the results were remarkable. Species that had been locked into rigid thinking patterns for millennia suddenly gained access to new forms of reasoning and imagination. They retained their unique perspectives and cultural values while gaining the cognitive flexibility that had made human advancement possible. Jake Morrison walked through the same council chambers where humanity had been banished 25 years earlier, but the room had been transformed beyond recognition. The walls now displayed real-time feeds from thousands of worlds where former enemies worked together on projects that would have seemed impossible just decades before. The rigid seating arrangement had been replaced with flowing spaces where beings of all forms could interact comfortably. The great sharing had begun 6 months after Operation Daybreak, with Dr. Peter Williams freely distributing human technological advances to every species that requested them. Matter transmission networks connected distant worlds in minutes rather than months. Medical advances eliminated diseases that had plagued entire civilizations for thousands of years. Environmental restoration technology brought dead worlds back to life and made harsh planets into gardens of abundance. Admiral Lisa Carter oversaw the restructuring of galactic defense around human principles of protection rather than domination. The new fleet consisted of ships from every major species, all equipped with human defensive technology that made aggression literally impossible. Weapons designed to harm intelligent life would not function, while defensive systems operated at peak efficiency. A galaxy had become a place where conflicts were resolved through negotiation rather than violence. Commander Amy Hughes transformed her intelligence network into a galactic communication and cooperation system. The same channels that had once carried military secrets now facilitated scientific collaboration, cultural exchange, and economic development. Information flowed freely between worlds, allowing every civilization to benefit from the discoveries and insights of all others. The breakthrough that changed everything came when Dr. Williams successfully created stable pocket universes that could be tailored for any purpose. Resource scarcity became a concept from the past as entire civilizations gained access to unlimited raw materials. Energy production reached levels that allowed for projects on truly galactic scales. Death itself became optional, as consciousness could be preserved and transferred between bodies or exist in pure energy form. President Lee addressed the assembled representatives during the summit's closing ceremony. 25 years ago, the galaxy chose to banish humanity because you feared our potential for disruption. You were right to fear us, but not for the reasons you believed. We were dangerous because we represented change, growth, and the possibility that civilizations could transcend their limitations. Today, we offer that same dangerous potential to every species willing to embrace it. The transformation was visible everywhere. The Zephyrians, once ethereal and detached, now participated enthusiastically in joint research projects with former enemies. The Vorthic Empire had redirected their ancient military traditions toward exploration and discovery. The hive mind of Kepler had learned to appreciate individual creativity while maintaining their collective strength. Species that had been locked in eternal conflicts for centuries now worked together as partners in the greatest adventure the galaxy had ever seen. Director Brooks initiated the first wave of the Transcendence Project, humanity's most ambitious undertaking. Volunteers from every species would have their consciousness expanded beyond current biological limitations. They would gain the ability to exist in multiple forms simultaneously, communicate across interstellar distances without technology, and perceive reality from perspectives that had never been possible before. The project would take generations to complete, but its ultimate goal was to elevate every sentient being to levels of existence that the precursors had achieved. Ambassador Davis announced the formation of exploration fleets that would carry the message of cooperation and transcendence to distant galaxies. Humanity had learned that the universe contained countless civilizations still struggling with the same challenges that had once divided their own galaxy. The new galactic community would reach out to these distant neighbors, offering the same opportunities for growth and advancement that had transformed their own corner of the cosmos. Dr. writes, consciousness-sharing technology allowed beings to experience existence from any perspective they chose. A human scientist could temporarily experience life as a crystalline entity that thought in mathematical harmonies. An energy-based being could inhabit a biological form and understand the joys of physical sensation. The barriers between species began to blur as understanding replaced fear and cooperation replaced competition. Jake Morrison stood once again at the viewing board where he had watched the evacuation fleets return to Sol 25 years earlier. This time, he watched ships departing for distant galaxies, carrying crews that represented every known form of sentient life. The vessels themselves were works of art that combined the best technological and aesthetic achievements of thousands of cultures. The irony was not lost on anyone who had lived through the transition. The Confederation's attempt to punish humanity by forcing them into isolation had become the catalyst for the greatest advancement in galactic history. The banishment that was meant to contain human influence had instead given humanity the time and motivation to develop the capabilities needed to elevate all galactic civilization. The final scene of humanity's transformation played out as the fall. Exploration fleets engaged their drives and disappeared into the space between galaxies. They carried with them the promise that no civilization would be left to struggle alone, that every species could reach its full potential, and that the universe itself was vast enough to accommodate the dreams and ambitions of every form of life it contained. The age of human hegemony had begun not with conquest, but with the greatest gift one civilization could offer another, the opportunity to become more than they had ever imagined possible.